In this video, we're going to continue where we left off in the previous one, and we're going to implement the mutation for the file upload. So in light of this, what I need is, of course, some GQL statement in here for the mutation itself. So I'm importing that tag, and I'm going to create something called upload file. This variable, which is going to be the actual mutation, where we have a file name that is a required string, and we're going to return the upload image, where we take the file name and pass in the file name variable. So this is the mutation that we created in an earlier video to upload an image to Cloudinary. Okay, so what we will do is write some functionality to do the file upload, but this is going to be tricky. And I've done a lot of debugging in order to be able to explain this in a very easy and concise manner. So what happens is that when we query for the profile, we query for the me user via the active session. And if you take a look at this, the me query does not have the photo in it. So the first thing that we need to do is make sure that we also retrieve the photo from the database, which of course initially is going to be null. Now there's a problem here. So think about this. We log in to see our profile. So actually let's do that. And at this point we get this object of me, which currently does not contain the photo. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save active session, and we can also save profile. So let me just log out and log in again to see this me object. Okay, so now the photo is there, but it doesn't have a value, it's a null. But the reason why this is null, it's not because there's no photo in the database. There's one more step that we need to do. We need to open our GraphQL code and find the user resolver and find a place where we create the token. And if you notice, the token that we create from which the me object is generated doesn't have a photo either. So what we'll do is make sure that we extract that from the user and add that to the token. So that's one thing that we need to change, and this is in the backend code running the GraphQL instance. So after this, make sure you restart your instance for the GraphQL endpoint and then go back to the React app. One thing out of the way, but now if we log out and log back again, we'll see that the updated object of me is still going to have the photo null, but at least now the photo is part of that actual token that we store under local storage. But here comes the sort of catch-22 situation. If we now upload an image and we do the mutation, there's no way that we can refresh the token because the token is only created when someone logs in. So we can't touch this particular token, and therefore we won't be able to see the profile image until the user logs out and logs back again. Now, in order to circumvent this, what we can do is come up with a clever way to store the profile image temporarily as part of the state of the component, of the profile component, and also to query for the photo of the user. And we can query for the photo of the user because we do have a query option in GraphQL for the user that accepts an ID, and the ID could be the currently logged in user's ID. So let me walk you through what we're going to do. So under the state of the profile, we have selected file set to be null, and I'm going to set up a photo URL state as well, which is going to be this.props.session.me.photo, and if that exists, then I'm just going to take that photo property. If it's null, I'm just going to return null, and I'm also going to create a temporary profile holder, which is going to be initiated with a value of null. And then we need to create another query in here, which is going to be querying for the user for ID, and then we can access the ID of the currently logged in user. And what I want to return is the photo itself. And I'm going to pass in some options for the photo. We've been through this via the earlier videos. So let's say true, true, and face, because we want to have a profile image. Okay, so this is now done. So what we need to do is, first of all, make sure that we call this mutation and that we call this query as well somehow. Now we're going to be programmatically calling the mutation and the query on the client. In order to do this, we need to make sure that we expose the client somehow. So how can we expose this client without using the query or the mutation components that come built in with Apollo React and Apollo Boost? If you remember, in one of the earlier videos, we have created a client here, which is the new Apollo client, which sets up this whole Apollo client for our React app. So I'm just going to say export this client, and in profile, I'm going to import this so that I can use it. So I'm going to say import client from index. And because I've imported this client, I can now programmatically call mutation and query. So let's go back to where the file upload happens, which is this part here. So as opposed to logging the file name to the console, we can do something else. We can now call client.mutate and pass in variables, pass in the file name as a variable, and specify the mutation that we want to call, which is upload file. Now client.mutate returns a promise, but I don't want to start another promise chain here, so I'm just going to change this to async await. So we want to make sure that once we have uploaded the file, and this is this section here, so this is now guaranteeing that the file has been uploaded, we call the mutation as well. This mutation means that the file that we just uploaded is going to be mutated, which is going to mean that it will be uploaded to Cloudinary. And once that's done, what I'm going to do is run client.query, execute the query that we have created right here, which is going to just return the photo for us. And then make sure that I extract the data from this. So the data from that query should return me the Cloudinary URL. So let's actually do a console.log on data, and I'm going to set the state of the temporary profile holder to be data.user.photo, because that's where the photo URL is going to be. And because I'm calling this set state, and that's how React works, is that it's going to re-render the profile component and should display the actual profile image for me. Okay, so that's done, but we need to do something else. We need to actually display the profile image, and that is going to be happening, of course, in the render. So in the render, let me just close this to make some more screen estate. So in the render, what I'm going to do, I'm going to somehow display this profile image, and I'm going to be using the query to query for the profile image. So remember, this.query is this statement here. And because I'm using query, I need to also import that from React Apollo so that I can actually use this query component to execute the query itself. Okay, so while I'm executing the query, I can do a few things. So what I will do, I will be extracting loading, error, and data. And I'm going to say if loading, then I'm going to return a paragraph that says loading, what should it say? Loading profile photo. And now I'm going to build an if-else statement. So if we have data.user.photo, then I'm going to return an image. Otherwise, if I have this state.temporary profile holder populated, so it's not null, then I'm going to return an image as well. And last but not least, else, I'm going to return an image, but this image is going to be a default image. So this is going to be just an avatar image, and I have prepared an avatar image here. So I've uploaded one to Cloudinary, so you will see that in just a second and see how that works. We need to add the old properties in order to comply to React. And after the query, we have the profile upload functionality in place. Okay, so let's give this a go. So let's save this. And now the profile refreshed. Because we haven't uploaded a picture and the session itself does not contain a picture yet or a photo yet, we display this avatar. So what happens when we will upload an image? Well, for now, not much, but theoretically, when we upload the image, let's walk through the code again. What is going to happen? It's going to upload the image via the fetch method, and then it's going to do the mutation, so it's also going to upload the image to Cloudinary. At that point, it is going to also execute a query, and then it should return us a console log statement with the data, and data.user.photo is going to be, or the value of data.user.photo is going to be added to the temporary profile holder. Now that means that if we have a temporary profile holder, then this statement is going to be returned. Okay, so what is going to be the source for the image? The source for the image is going to be very simply this.state.temporary profile holder. And what if we have data user photo? Then the source should be data.user.photo. So let's hit save and let's give this a go. So I'm going to select a file. Let's call this men.jpg and hit upload. Okay, so we do have an error, which is console.errors. So that's probably my bad right here. So this should be console.error, not console.errors. And if we refresh, now we see that image. So why do we see this image? Well, the upload was successful, even though there was just syntax error here. But this is important to understand now. If I expand the me object, the photo is still null. So let me reiterate, why is this null? It is null because this me object, this session.me object, is being built up based on the token, based on the validation JSON web token that we have in the local storage. So if we upload an image, there's no way that we can alter that token. The only option that we have is to delete it and get the user to log in again. And when they log in, that photo is then going to be populated. But that's not a nice user experience. So what we do, we basically upload the image and then immediately query for only the photo of the particular user. And this is the query that we execute. And the result of this query gets placed into this temporary profile holder. Okay, so this temporary profile holder is going to have access to this image. But when we log out and log back in as this user, and if we check the me object, notice that the photo property does have a value. So now we're not even using the temporary profile holder because we have access to this particular photo. Also notice that because we've done 200 true face in here for the photo, what we get back is a zoom on this particular user's face, whereas the original image, so if I just show that to you, is a much larger image that we uploaded. But this is again something that Cloudinary does, and we've been through this as part of a previous video. So let's log out and log in as a different user. They don't have a profile image, so I'm going to choose a file and upload this image. And you can see there's an error that says evaluating data.users. So this particular part of the code is failing. So line 58, data user photo cannot be accessed. And that is because client.query is also a promise. So we need to say await client.query. So what I'm going to do, and you can see that now we do have the image after the page refreshes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to reset my data set and then do another test. So I have reset my data. And now I'm going to log in and we get this default avatar again. So what I'm going to do before we actually choose a file to upload is come back to this handle selected file event, because when we select a file, I want to also make sure that we clean up any potential leftovers, and I set the temporary profile holder to be null. And why do we do this? Well, I just want to make sure that if I did an upload before somewhere in here and I set the state, is that now I no longer get that. So I just want to make sure that I sort of hard reset the state of the profile component. Okay, now I can tell you that this is still not going to work, and this is going to be a very interesting thing. So I'm going to pick a file, choosing this guy, hit upload, and notice here, user photo is still null. So this is this console log data statement. So why would that be? This is a very interesting thing. By default, Apollo React caches the GraphQL statements. And we have executed this query before, where we query for this particular user, because we execute this query right here, and then we re-execute it here. But GraphQL says, you know what? These two queries are the same, and it doesn't really know that the underlying data has changed. So what we need to do is tell the client that for this query, it should not utilize the cache. So this is not going to return the data from its cache, but instead it's going to rerun the query itself. And because it will rerun the query, it will also do the upload and then display the image itself. So let me save this, and of course when we save and we refresh, we see the image, but let's try this with another user. So we get the default avatar here. We're going to choose this file, hit upload, and because we are no longer using the cache, we get the URL back for the photo, and we also see the profile image. And now if we refresh, we still see the profile image, even though the photo property is null. Why do we see that? Because we run this particular query to return the user information. If we log out and log back again, we will of course see the user photo again, notice that the photo property doesn't reflect the result of this particular query. So what we need to do is go back to active session and update the photo here so that we pass in the same option so that the session will also have the same profile URL. So let's take a look at this. So if we log in, check the photo property, and now it's HTTPS and has all the modifications that we have applied to the photo itself. So in this video, we saw how to actually display a profile image, and in this section, we saw how to manage profile images after someone has been authenticated via React using GraphQL.